shall move on to the speaking portion of our program. First up, Jimmy Frosty Winters, that one was easy, with his speech entitled On the Path. Martha will be his evaluator. Martha, if you would please give us his objectives.
Sure. Jim is doing another competent communicator, so he's working in the basic manual. Project number 3, principal point. His objectives are to select a specific topic and determine its general and specific purposes, to organize the speech in a manner that best achieves those purposes, to ensure the beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce the purposes, and to project sincerity, conviction, and control any nervousness that he may feel, and also strive not to use notes. So he has a lot of objectives, and his time is 5 to 7 minutes. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Martha. Last Friday was a very special day for Jimmy and his family. As most of you may know, Jimmy's wife, Valentina, is from Moldova, and today Jimmy will share with you their 4-year path to citizenship with his speech titled On the Path. Jimmy Winters, On the Path.
This year, over 1 million immigrants will be naturalized citizens to these United States. Last Friday, my wife joined them at a ceremony at the Federal Building. She was one of 59 other people to stand there and take their oath and to be sworn in as new citizens. They came from all around the world. There were people there from as close as Canada and Mexico, and as far away as Australia and Poland, and of course, Moldova. Around them was surrounded by their friends and their families, all of us trying to get a good picture in, take a video for this very special moment. I wondered as I looked out at their families if their experience through the whole immigration process was similar to ours. At times for me, I felt that a lot of the process was nothing more than just making a series of scheduled payments. The ceremony was quick, it was very patriotic, and above all, there was a sense of relief in the room. I felt it after it was finished. It was a sense of relief that they'd finally walked to the end of this path of citizenship, and now they could start living their American dream. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, I met my wife 4 years ago. She was working up in Tahoe at the Club Calneva. She was a waitress there working on what's called a J1 visa. You've probably heard it, just called a work visa. I don't want to say it was love at first sight, but I do remember the first time I ever saw my wife. And she had on the most ridiculously large uniform because it was the smallest one that the Club Calneva had, and it was still too big for her. We started talking. I loved her accent from the minute I heard it, and I'd done some traveling, so we went ahead and continued to talk, and in less than 2 months, we were married on December 28th, 2007. Immediately, we filed for an adjustment of status. This is very similar to the K-1 visas that people will bring over their fiancés over to the States on, except Valentina was already here in the States. So basically what this means is that we would ask for an adjustment of status so that she would not have to leave. Once we were granted this adjustment of status, she was able to work and move around inside the United States. We then applied for a green card that same year. Now, a green card is essentially a foot in the door towards citizenship. That is the first step in the process. It involves a medical exam. Of course, there's filing fees throughout the whole process, and then an interview. And we were told during this interview that it would be a little tricky, that they're looking out for these sham marriages. So be ready to be separated in 2 separate rooms and be asked questions like, whose side of the bed is the alarm clock on? things like this. So we did this big thing where we went over everything in our room and started just to make sure. Luckily for us, at that time, we were welcoming the coming birth of our first child, Charlotte, and we also had tickets so I could go meet the in-laws. So once we produced those, they seemed like that was enough for them, and she got her green card. And what you don't know about a green card is the first one that you get is only for 2 years, and it's for like a trial green card, if you will. At the end of that 2 years, you have 90 days before it expires to file for an extension. Once that extension is granted, now you have a 10-year green card after that. So that's where we were. We got our 10-year green card, and we were very happy to finally be done with it, right? Because it takes like 5 years of being married before you can apply for citizenship. Well, I was online one day when I wanted to bring her parents over to visit us, and I happened to see that it only takes 3 years of marriage before your wife can apply for citizenship. So that's what we did. Almost immediately, we actually bypassed it by a few months. Once we applied for the naturalization, there was another interview, and we were granted that interview. In this interview, the point is that the applicant speaks English, knows how to read and write English, and as well, they take a civics test. And these are questions on basic American history. Some of those questions on the test are like, who is Martin Luther King Jr.? Or how long does the president's term? Or how long does the president serve? After that interview, a few weeks later, we were given a letter. We received a letter in the mail saying that she was granted her citizenship and we should wait for the ceremony. This ceremony last Friday was a culmination of the last 4 years, $3,055 in filing fees, 2 interviews, 2 medical exams, and a lot of hard work. When Valentina was there at the ceremony, the judge asked if anybody wanted to say something. Any of the new citizens would like to get up and speak. Now at this point, there's over 100 people there, and they're passing out a microphone. And she felt compelled to get up and talk. And like a Toastmaster, she did great. And she said that she just was so happy to become an American, that she felt blessed that she had the opportunity and the rights that we share here in America. And we're not done yet. We would like to bring her brother over as well and give him the opportunity to come here. We have some more filing fees, and they tell us that the filing of this application will give him a spotted line. The front of that line will be reached in 10.5 to 22 years. Wow. So that's disappointing, but it does make me think, as I was there at the ceremony and knowing about her brother, how lucky I am to be born here in America, what opportunities we have, and just what a special place this country is. That people would wait and wait and wait for years and years and pay money and go through these hoops just to have an opportunity to become citizens of this country that we are citizens of simply the fact that we were born here. It's a very special thing. One of the main themes there at the ceremony, though, was that once you become an American now, it's your duty to exercise your rights. And my wife and I are very excited to vote in the upcoming primaries. We're also very excited to vote in next year's elections. I know it's daunting sometimes when you get bombarded with these election commercials. But I think it's the right of every citizen to exercise their rights, and you should do so if you're lucky enough to be called an American.